Okay, good evening, everyone. I'm Andy Stack. I'm currently chair of the CA Board of Directors. I want to remind everyone that this meeting is being live streamed, and I want to thank everyone for joining us tonight. The agenda and background information for tonight's meeting can be found on the CA Board webpage. I encourage you to follow using these documents. I would ask that you please mute your mics or phones unless you're actually speaking. Please remember to be courteous to each other. When you do speak, first state your name so everyone knows who is speaking. Speak clearly and slowly so that everyone can hear you. And for the board members, please remember to use the chat feature because I can't always see everyone on the screen. So if you have a question or want to be recognized, please use the chat feature. I will introduce each item on the agenda, and voting is generally by roll call unless there is no opposition. I will try to restate the motion before a vote is taken. So now I'd like to move along with announcement of closed meetings. There were a number. On December 10th, 2020, there was a closed meeting of the Risk Management Committee. All these meetings were virtual. Committee members, Lynn Egan, Nancy McCord, Milton Matthews, Susan Krabbe, Renee Dubois. The vote to close was 4-0-0. Lynn, Nancy, Milton, Susan. The reason to close was Section 4, consultation with staff personnel, consultants, attorneys, board members, or other persons in connection with pending or potential litigation or other legal matters. Meeting was closed at 6:37 p.m. and opened at 6:53 p.m. And the purpose of the meeting was to discuss general liability instances and claims. There was a closed meeting of the Architectural Resource Committee on Monday, December 14th, 2020. Present were members Sherry Fanaroff, Deb Bach, Ed Gordon, Ann McKissick, and Devorah Wilkinson. The vote to close was 5-0-0. Meeting was closed under Section 4, consultation with staff personnel, consultants, attorneys, or other persons in connection with pending or potential litigation. The meeting was closed at 1:05 p.m. and opened at 2:57 p.m. And the purpose was to discuss new and ongoing covenant cases. There was a closed work session of the CA Board of Directors on December 17th, 2020. In attendance, we had Dick, Renee, Jess, Alan, Milton, Nancy, Jenny, Shari, Andy, and then Lynn joined us at 6:38 and Janet joined us at 6:08. The vote to close was 8-0-0. Dick, Renee, Alan, Nancy, Andy, Jenny, Jess, and Shari. It was closed under Section 4, consultation with staff personnel, consultants, attorneys, board members, or other persons in connection with pending or potential litigation or other legal matters. Meeting was closed at 6:04 p.m. and opened at 8:24 p.m. And the purpose of the meeting was to meet with lawyers to discuss legal issues. There was a closed meeting of the Architectural Resource Committee on Monday, January 11th, 2021. We had Sherry Fanaroff, Deb Bach, Ed Gordon, and Devorah Wilkinson as members present. The vote to close was 4-0-0. It was closed under Section 4, consultation with staff personnel, consultants, attorneys, or other persons in connection with pending or potential litigation. The meeting was closed at 1:06 p.m. and opened at 2:06 p.m. And the purpose was to discuss new and ongoing covenant cases. And finally, there was a closed work session of the CA Board of Directors on Wednesday, January 27th, 2021. In attendance were Dick, Renee, Jess, Janet, Alan, Milton, Nancy, Ginny, Shari, Andy, and then Lynn joined us at 7:07 p.m. The vote to close was 9-0-0. Dick, Renee, Jess, Janet, Alan, Nancy, Ginny, Shari, and Andy. It was closed under Section 4, consultation with staff, personnel, consultants, attorneys, board members, or other persons in connection with pending or potential litigation or other legal matters. And 6, consideration of the terms or conditions of a business transaction in the negotiation stage if the disclosure could adversely affect the economic interests of the homeowners association. Meeting was closed at 7:05 p.m. and opened at 9:05 p.m. And it concerned legal issues relating to Symphony Woods. Those are all of the closed meeting announcements I have. So I'd like to go on to approval of the agenda. Hopefully all the board members have seen the agenda. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved. It's Ginny. So moved.
Is there a second?
Andy, did you ascertain who's here from the board?
Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot to take the roll call vote. Right. Thank you, Alan. I'll go back and do the roll call. Dick?
He said here.
Dick is here. I can see him. Dick? Okay.
Push the wrong button. Yes, I am here.
I was going to say, he's waving at you, Andy.
Janet?
Here.
Shari?
Here.
Jess? I don't see her yet. Nancy?
I'm here.
Lynn?
Here. Oh, I see just said she can't access the meeting.
Uh-oh.
Okay, Alan?
Here, you can let Jeff
Renee?
know there's a phone call in.
Here.
Jenny?
Here.
Milton?
Here.
Andy? Okay, everyone but Jess, and hopefully Jess will be able to join us shortly. All right. Approval of the agenda. Jenny moved. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Dick seconded. All right, let me ask, is there any objection to the agenda? Hearing none? Okay, it's approved. Okay, next up, we're going to have residents speak out, and we actually have one of our largest contingents for residents speak out tonight. So I just want to remind everyone that Janet is our timekeeper, and you'll have 3 minutes if you're talking for yourself, and 5 if you're talking for an organization. And I will go through and ask. So first up, and this is in order of the sign up, and please bear with me in case I mispronounce your name. Carol Cram, is Carol with us tonight? Drew, do we know if Carol is?
I'm not sure. Carol, if you're there, you can hit *6 to unmute your phone. Let's see if that's it, or...
Oh, there she is. Carol?
Yes.
Welcome. It's your turn for a resident speak out. 3 minutes for, so thank you very much.
Thank you. I'm sorry I'm a little bit late. I did not write a formal persuasive speech, so I'll just be honest and share my thoughts. I'm a new member of Haven on the Lake as of January 1st, and my sister gave me the membership. I was so excited to join, and my sister from West Virginia joined me there the other day. I was upset to hear that it might be closing, and I would just like to challenge. I think I can understand the reason why. I'd like to challenge you to think of it as a unique place that can't really be replicated elsewhere. I think of Haven. Put together some slides, but I won't use them. But I think of a haven as a place. If you look up the word and look at the definition, if it's a place, it's a refuge, it's an oasis, and I feel that Haven on the Lake cannot be replicated at home. And now more than ever, it is needed. It's needed because of the global pandemic. It's needed because of the crazy economics and political things going on in the world. And it's needed more than ever by, I think, both people like myself who live alone and people who have families and are stuck with their kids at home. So I would just challenge you to think of it that way. And I think in keeping with James Rouse's original vision for Columbia of a place that really is, it's diverse in its offerings. Even the times I've been to Haven on the Lake, it's a diverse clientele. It's been a smaller number of folks there, I understand. But there have been African Americans, there have been Asian Americans, there have been plain old white folks like me. And it's just, I think that women and individuals, women have been hit a little bit harder during this pandemic. And I just think that it's a place that can really help. So my time is probably up, but I thank you for the time to speak.
Thank you. Thank you, Carol. We actually have two questions. Ginny first and then Alan.
Carol, thank you for your testimony. And I'm just wondering if you would let us know what village maybe you live in?
I will tell you, I actually live in Ellicott City.
Well, thank you for, no, we need support from people outside Columbia in order for our facilities to function. So thank you. I just wanted to get a location idea.
Sure.
Thank you.
Alan?
Yeah. Carol, yeah, thank you for and I'm going to ask you this, and by extension, I'm going to ask everybody who's here to talk about the Haven. To the extent that the Haven income doesn't meet Haven expenses, that means that everybody in Columbia pays a little bit for it, even the ones who don't use it. So I'd like you to, if you wanted to give a number, how much would you be willing to pay for other people's things that they use that you don't use, or how do you speak to that? What makes the Haven worth everybody in Columbia paying for it, even if they don't use it?
Well, I think that, my understanding is everyone in Columbia pays a certain fee. Folks in Columbia aren't using all the facilities. I'm not sure I understand your question. You want me to justify how?
From your point of view, there are some things that, like, I'd expect people to pay for. You use a gym, you pay for the gym, and on the other hand, there are things like pathways and the lake that everybody could use, and there's no way to quantify somebody paying for. So
I understand.
What's your view on that?
I guess I don't know if this may not be the answer you're looking for, but I'm only recently familiar with the kinds of offerings that has, but I do feel that there would be a way to probably broaden the offerings in some way that might invite others in, and might, people that don't go there now, there may be a way to include them and for them to learn about other mind-body kinds of offerings, because people need that kind of thing now more than ever.
Okay, any other questions for Carol? If not, I want to thank Carol. Thank you very much for coming out tonight, and you're welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting, but if you might have something else.
Is it all right if I mute myself and?
Oh, sure, yeah, but please mute yourself. Okay, next up will be Alex Zahemian, followed by Bridget Fenderson and Steve Furr. So Alex, you're up next. Alex, I know you were there.
Yes, I was. Good evening. Before I use my time, I want you to know that I am losing my video connection again, like last time. So that's why I'm reconnecting by phone. You should know that this doesn't really happen when I use Zoom in Zoom meetings that I attend. So this may be something that your technical staff might want to try to figure out why this is happening. Okay. I'll just start by observing that the virtual event that CA staff held last week was not really a town meeting in the traditional and accepted definition of the term. People say that it played out instead like a promotional video. No residents were allowed to ask their questions directly, and staff only made vague references to the questions they received, none of which were repeated verbatim. Now, staff did say that by far the largest number of questions involved the proposal to close 8 outdoor pools. And that's no surprise since residents have rated outdoor pools as the most valued sport and fitness facilities and ranked them the highest for full funding even during tough economic times. Residents have also said that the number one reason for buying a membership was the availability of pools within their neighborhoods. So why would you want to endanger CA's membership income by closing any of those pools? Pools were the only major sport and fitness facilities that were closed last year. Those pools have already paid the price. Why do that again to 8 of the pools? People are asking, instead, why aren't a number of the other money-losing sport and fitness facilities now taking their turn with some closings? When you think about it, if you keep them all open, CA's 3 gyms will have a combined bottom line loss of about $3.4 million. $3.4 million loss in fiscal year 22. The 2 golf courses will have a combined loss of about $2 million. The sports park will have a loss of about $190,000. The horse center will have a loss of over $250,000. People say it makes no sense to make them immune from closings and to instead make 8 pools suffer again for the second straight year. Pitting one pool against another is not the answer, though. As we start to rebound from COVID-19, this is the perfect time to reopen all the pools. People have been cooped up indoors during the pandemic for over a year. The pools are the most popular outdoor activity over the summer months, and families really need them in their neighborhoods for their physical as well as their mental health. So in closing, people really are looking to you for fairness, looking to you for empathy, looking to you to align with the residents' funding priorities. Start to increase memberships and boost attendance at the pools with a focused marketing plan, some creative promotions, and financial incentives to get people to rediscover their pools in much greater numbers. People will be listening, trusting that you will respect residents' priorities. Please advocate for reopening all the pools and recommend launching a strong plan to boost memberships and attendance at all of our pools. Columbia's residents are counting on you. And thank you.
Thanks, Alex. Any questions? Nope, I don't see any. Okay, so next, thank you, Alex, for.
I have one for Alex.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Alex, how do you respond to the notion that given the continued pandemic, there's a limit to how much attendance can be boosted?
Oh, I think that once we break this spell of the pandemic later on in the year, with more people getting vaccinated. By the way, I got vaccinated today. I think you're going to see people coming back to the pools, but that's why I'm saying you need to have a really good new marketing plan, new creative promotions. You need some financial incentives. Get people back to the outdoor pools, which they value so much. So I think the pandemic is an issue for all the facilities, not just the pools. So I think that there needs to be some strong marketing to get people back. so that you don't CA doesn't continue to bleed financially from losses in membership income.
Okay, thank you, Alex.
You're welcome.
Next up, we have Brigitte Fessenden. I'm sorry, I might have your name wrong.
That's okay.
And then followed by Steve Furr and Sherman Howell. Brigitte?
Am I unmuted at this point?
You're
Can you
unmuted.
hear-
We can hear you.
Yes. Hi, good evening. My name is Brigitte Fessenden, and I'm speaking on behalf of myself and my husband, Nicholas Fessenden. My testimony is in regard of the Haven closing. We live in the King's Contrivance neighborhood and are actively involved in our community. We have been members of the Haven on the Lake for several years and are against shutting down this wonderful facility for the following reasons. The Haven is a unique place, providing not only exercise opportunities, but also true health improvements for its members, especially seniors, with its warm water pool, jacuzzi, sauna, steam room, and especially their crystal salt therapy room. The Haven provides an ideal exercise environment, especially when the weather precludes outdoor activities, and for those who have COPD, contributing to the health and well-being of its members and the Columbia community. Personally, I rely on the salt therapy for the treatment of my COPD condition and have experienced significant improvements of my respiratory problems after using salt therapy over time. So have many people I meet there. We all need the Haven for our health and well-being. One of your reasons given for closing the Haven on May 1st is that the COVID pandemic has reduced its activities and revenues. We should know, though, that Howard County is currently undertaking its widespread vaccination program, and many of us will be vaccinated by late spring and early summer, hopefully, allowing again a higher attendance at the Haven to resume at full capacity. We understand that the planning and design of the Haven in the Gary building, including the pool area on the ground floor, was to accommodate the CA's wishes for a public facility in downtown Columbia from the beginning, and that the current lease runs out in 2025. So there are 5 more years CA would be responsible for the lease. Breaking this lease may be problematic, but again, that needs to be looked at, I'm sure. We are against singling out the Haven for permanent closure and request that it not be done. We believe that there might be other ways to accommodate your budget needs and truly hope for that. And thank you for considering this matter.
Thank you, Brigitte. Any questions? No, I don't see any. Thank you, Brigitte. Next up,
You're
we have
welcome.
Steve Furr, followed by Sherman Howell, and then Callis Hall. Steve, welcome.
Good evening. Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to speak before you. My name is Steve Thur, and I'm a resident of the Hickory Ridge Village, and I'm here to speak with you about the proposed closing of 8 of the pools. I want to say thank you for the staff that presented information at the town hall, along with the aquatics staff that provided responses to the questions that I sent through Jess earlier this week. I found both helpful. From that information, it appears that the proposal to open 15 pools was primarily driven by the needs of the Columbia Neighborhood Swim League, of which our family is part. It was based on the information that I've been given that it was the minimum number of pools in order to operate the swim league, plus 1 for additional programming. And the decision to recommend a proposal of 15 pools was not based on a specific budget allocated to the outdoor pools, but rather that minimum necessary for the swim league. It seems that other community use, including general use throughout the day, was a secondary consideration in the proposal development of 15 pools. I want to specifically ask that you consider to keep open Clary's Forest Pool. It is the most used of the 8 pools proposed to remain closed, and it has greater attendance than 7 of the 15 pools proposed to open. So in other words, Clary's Forest is the 9th most of the 23 pools in terms of attendance and is still slated for closure. We personally have safety concerns in our family about the next two closest pools to our neighborhood. Cedar Lane divides Hickory Ridge, and unaccompanied minors would have to cross Cedar Lane in order to reach Hawthorne Pool. And there was one of our swimmers struck in the intersection at Hickory Ridge and Cedar Lane in 2014 on her way to CNSL's morning swim. So a number of families in Hickory Ridge are uncomfortable with their minor children crossing Cedar Lane. The next closest pool is Swansfield. It's exceptionally busy. It's the fourth most used pool in the system. It has a very small, shallow end and is not ideal for social distancing, even with attendance limits that might be imposed. Finally, I'd like to mention that one of the challenges that we are having is reconciling the general assessment that we pay with the membership fees that we specifically pay for pools with less access. So one of the basic questions is, why should we be paying them more, if not because of increased property values leading to increased general assessment for less access? So I recognize there are challenges. I thank you for your time.
Thank you, Steve. Any questions for Steve? No, I don't see any. Thank you, Steve. Next up, we have Sherman Howe, who is representing the African American Coalition of Howard County. And then following him will be Callis Hall. Welcome, Sherman. Sherman, you just need to unmute yourself.
Much as I go on these things, I should know that. I'm sorry. Again, thank you, Mr. Chairman, for this chance to this opportunity, I guess I should say, to discuss a difficult subject, and that is the absence of diversity on the CA Board of Directors, and number two, its impact on the upcoming selection of new president. It has been brought to my attention, the AACHC's attention, that a recent Howard County population analysis conducted by the Association of Community Services shows that the Columbia population is 47% white, 26% black, 13% Asian, 9% Hispanic, and 5% others. These figures clearly shows that the CA Board of Directors does not reflect the community it serves. No matter how well-intentioned its members, an all-white board is glaringly behind the times. It cannot pretend to adequately represent, number one, the interests of a community founded on the values of diversity and inclusion, nor of people of color who are demanding that institutions represent their interests. We could also add that this board does not adequately represent other demographic markers like age range, for example, not to mention income and employment status, since retirees do not represent the majority of Columbians. It is obvious that concerted efforts are required to recruit and train community members of color to replace an aging, an entrenched board, most members of whom have run for election term after term without any limits on how long they can do so. At a minimum, you should have term limits. It is your responsibility and the board, Mr. Chairman, to replace yourself within the next with the next generation of leaders who better reflect the community and are better suited, number one, to choose new leadership, establish budgets that represent their needs, and spearhead programs that afford them opportunities to benefit from living in Columbia. Now, this requires immediate action since elections will be held in April and candidates must file in March, but it would be too late to impact the selection of the next CA president. I'm therefore calling upon you all to convene a resident advisory committee, to supplement your review of prospective CA president of the prospective CA president, A supplementary selection group isn't a perfect solution, however, to the problem, but it could be a good faith recognition to the community that you need broader input for decision making. You will, of course, be reliant on your search firm. We recognize that, for recommendations, but those recommendations themselves would not have the benefit of being filtered through the concerns and aspirations of the community. In closing here, so I encourage you to do two things. Number one, seek and cultivate a replacement among your constituents. And number two, convene an advisory board to help you select the next CA president. Thank you again, Mr. President, for allowing the African American Coalition this opportunity to speak.
Sorry. Thank you, Sherman. Janet, I think you have a question.
Yes, hi Sherman, thank you for coming. I was wondering if you are aware of candidates in particular villages that are interested in running for the CA board, because I also agree with you that we would benefit from some diversity on the CA board. And, you know, I would like to see, oftentimes it's difficult to find folks who are willing and interested in serving. So I was wondering if you had people that you were aware of in different villages that you would be, you know, willing to put in contact with us so that we can encourage additional diversity.
Well, Janet, that's a good question, and that is on my agenda to do. We have quite an extensive, the African American Coalition of Howard County has quite an extensive emailing list. And what I plan to do is send emails out to groups of people. The churches are on our list, and of course, all the organizations, many of the organizations are on there also. So that's my next step. I understand where you're coming from, I'm sorry, and that makes a lot of good sense. And I should see it as my responsibility, since I'm asking that you all do the same thing.
Milton?
Yes. Hello, Mr. Howell. How are you doing?
Okay. Sorry to lose you.
But I want to echo what Janet said, because a couple of years ago, I had a meeting with two members of the African American Coalition about the exact topic you're bringing up, that a representation on CA's board of directors. And I got some good advice, but I got no takers though. And so whatever we can do to encourage more involvement from the community in CA's board and just on CA's advisory committees as a starting point, I think that's a good start.
Well, Milton, I don't know which group, we got so many African American groups, but I don't recall you dealing with the African American Coalition, but that's okay. That's okay. You know what I mean? I will accept the fact that you perhaps may have called somebody, but
no, I actually had a luncheon meeting.
Oh, with somebody from African American Coalition of Howard County?
Yes.
That should have been me or Reverend Turner.
It was one of the individuals was Reverend Turner, and the others was I think it was Reverend Washington.
No, that's not Reverend Turner is involved in a number of different groups. But anyway, I get your point. I get your point. And you said that this time you expect some follow through. Okay, I get it.
Any other questions? If not, thank you, Sharon. Appreciate it. And if you could send us your testimony, email, that would be great.
Will do. Okay. Hi, Lan. She probably can't hear me, I don't guess. Let me get out.
Can I say something?
Dick.
Yes, Mr. Howell, I appreciate your testimony, and it's something we've discussed. We would like to get more diversity on the board. And would you consider running for the board? We'd love to have you.
Well, my competitor would be already on the board, okay?
Well, every one of us has a competitor coming up.
Right. Which is Alan. Which is Alan. I talk with Alan about it, okay?
Okay.
I talk with Alan.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Next up, we have Callis Hall. Hopefully I got the name right. Drew, do we know if Hall is here?
It doesn't look like it. I'm scrolling through, but no, I don't see anything.
Okay. Well, so thank you very much. That's all I have. Sign up for Resident Speak Out. Next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. And what we did is we approved the minutes for the December 10th meeting. So now we're going to move on to board votes. Okay, under that section, the first item is the easement agreement for the Rosalind Rise Fire Access request. Milton, anything you want to say?
Now, Dennis and Al should be out there, or at least Dennis should be out there.
Dennis, anything you want to add?
No, there's been no change in the information since the last meeting.
Okay, is there a motion to approve that easement agreement?
Move for approval.
Okay, Jenny, is there a second?
I'll second that. Dick.
Dick? Okay, is there any objection to the easement agreement for the Rosalind Rise Fire Access? Okay, hearing none, it's approved.
It takes me forever to get in. I'm sorry.
Sorry.
I just wanted to say that I was at the Wild Lake meeting when the fire department was, not the fire department, when the developers were there talking about it. And there is a lot of concern about the amount of, the greater amount of traffic that's going to be on Twin Rivers, because they're going to more than double the number of people living in that pretty small area. They're going to 4 or 5 stories, and I suggested, because frankly, I live in the Birches. I had taken one of the county county zoning classes, and they said how they don't like to have, they don't like to have areas, housing areas with only one exit and one entrance. So I suggested that they make, not just for the fire department, but for the people who live there, to have 2 entrances or exits, ergo, so that they have to make a broader space. I don't mind giving them the easement, but I do mind, and I don't know who to tell about it, because I guess you guys really don't care about what the county does or doesn't do, but it's a shame to put it in without the 2 exits in case of any kind of an emergency. I just think it's a serious mistake.
Thanks, Nancy. Any other comments, any questions, anything? All right, well, in that case, do you want me to do a roll call vote? I mean, Nancy, or I'll do a roll call vote. Janet?
Yes.
Shari?
Yes.
Jenny?
Yes.
Dick?
Yes.
Lynn?
Yes.
Nancy?
What the heck? I'll say no.
Jess?
Yes.
Alan?
Yes.
Renee?
Yes.
Andy, I'll say yes. Okay, so it passes 9-1.
Milton's got his hand up.
Milton?
Just to follow up to Nancy's inquiry, we can reach out to the county to find out what was the reasoning behind. I guess I get from Nancy that she did not find out from the county what their approval steps were, and why your concern was not addressed. So we can reach out and see if we can find out what was the reasoning behind not requiring the 2 means of ingress and egress.
Great. Thank you very much.
Okay, the next easement agreement is wetland study and solutions, stream restoration and access easement. up in the Long Reach, Dobbin Road area. Milton, anything you want to add?
No, Dennis is ready.
So
Dennis?
just to say that the approval would be contingent on review by the Watershed Advisory Committee and then approval by CA. This is a case where the contractor will work directly for CA versus in Harper's Choice, Wild Lake, and Town Center, where the contractor works for SHA State Highway.
Okay. Is there a motion to approve that easement?
Move for approval.
Is there a second?
Actually, so can I just get a clarification that the verbiage of the easement will be changed to include that verbiage, Dennis?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Is there a second?
Andy?
Yes, sorry.
Also clarification, I noticed that you had a walk for the community folks. Did any questions or concerns come up during that time from community members?
There were always questions and concerns about the number of trees that are going to be impacted and the travel path, and it will result in some temporary pathway closures. We'll continue to work with the community, and there are also some concerns about the amount of erosions in the streams, and there are some areas where the stream is really is moving towards single-family residences. It's a balancing act.
Okay, any other questions? Shari, anything else?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I just wanted to ask whether our policy about reforestation, we've always had a policy about if we take a tree out, we put 2 in. Is that still going to be in place for this project, or is the contractor going to be required to do some reforestation?
So the answer is yes. It would be a 2-for-1 replacement. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so I have Ginny moved and Janet seconded for this easement. All right. Is there any opposition? All right. I'll just assume everybody said yes.
Can I just make one comment?
Yes.
Dennis, after the big brouhaha we had over the project in Harper's, I hope you're really going to talk to Tim about putting a full schmooze on the neighborhood there and make sure that everybody knows what we're doing. Because when we do these projects, it really looks like hell for a while and scares the bejeepers out of people. So we need to make sure they know that we're going to restore the land afterwards. And we want to get on top of that before we start getting the complaints.
Understood.
Okay, next item up for a vote, the Inner Arbor Trust revised concept plan. Milton, anything you want to say?
Everyone should have received earlier today a draft of a motion that I had asked Sherry to work along with Jessica to put before the board. And as you made your consideration about this, taking action on this concept plan.
Okay.
And Sherry should be out there if you have any questions about the content.
All right, is there a motion to approve
I'm
that?
out here if anybody needs to ask anything.
Yes, I would like to make a motion.
Okay, Dick is moving that we approve that resolution.
Yes,
Is there a second?
now I had,
I'll second.
Wait, I need a second, Dick.
I'll
Okay,
second.
Lynn seconded it. All right. Dick,
as you all know, you got last night a draft of proposed motion, and Sherry looked it over and amplified it and made it all very legal. I assume everybody's seen that. I like what she did. I think it's good. Do I need to read the whole thing before we vote, or has everybody seen it?
does anyone want it read? Shari.
Yeah, just as a point of order, and as far as CA board procedures are concerned, board members are the ones who make motions. And I think that's an important thing for folks to realize, that staff provide information, they provide references, they provide data, but the actual motion is made by the voting members of the board. So that's a procedure that we need to follow.
Right. And Dick made the motion.
I'm making the motion, and we have a short version and a long version, and which do people want me to present?
Dick, read the long version.
Okay.
Just get it officially into the record.
Okay. I move the Columbia Association Board of Directors vote in favor of the resolution set forth below. CA hereby conditionally accepts the new concept plan for Symphony Woods presented to CA by Inner Arbor Trust and discussed by the board at 2 CA board meetings. The plan is attached to and incorporated in this resolution as Exhibit A. This plan would replace the previous concept plan referenced and incorporated in the easement agreement between CA and the trust. This acceptance is conditioned upon the following. The plan is only a suggested framework for future development of Symphony Woods, and its acceptance by CA is of no binding effect. CA's acceptance of the plan in no way obligates CA to approve or construct any specific elements of the plan. CA's acceptance of the plan shall in no way be construed as an agreement to finance any of the development depicted in the plan. CA retains the right to modify any aspect or element of the plan for any reason at any time. Implementation of the plan is subject to the easements and agreements between CA, the trust, and other parties that relate to the uses of and structures already existing in Symphony Woods. CA's acceptance of the plan does not constitute permission for any person to enter into a new license agreements or easements for which they currently lack authority. Construction of any elements of the plan would be subject to applicable building codes, environmental regulations, and any other applicable statutes, codes, and regulations that might require modification of the plan. The CA board currently intends to work with the trust to re-examine the easement between the parties and may choose to negotiate amendments to the easement. Acceptance of the plan shall not impact the adoption of any amendments to the easement. This is essentially what I said, but just fancier.
All right. Any other questions? If not, I'll take the roll call vote. Lynn. Oh, wait. Cheryl has a question.
Yeah, we do have discussion.
Yes.
First of all, the motion has to be seconded.
Lynn seconded it.
Yeah.
Okay, and then we have discussion.
Yes. I've
Okay,
opened
so
the discussion.
Okay, so I would just like to discuss this for a moment. I think the point about the easement, I would like for that last paragraph to be left out. This is the concept plan, and much of the legalese language is just stating what is already the case for developers throughout Howard County who are developing properties and land. So it specifies those things, but I think there are 2 different elements here. So I would just like to ask that for an amendment that last paragraph on easements be left out.
Ginny? Okay, wait a minute. Wait, Alan's up next and then Ginny. Sorry.
Well, actually, sounds like Barry just made a motion for an amendment. I think the next procedure would be to ask if there's a second for her amendment.
Did you make a motion, Shari? Is that your motion to remove?
Yes, I asked for an amendment that last paragraph be dropped out. That's the only thing I'm concerned about.
I'll second that. It's Janet.
Janet will second that.
Well,
So let me ask, well, let me ask just Dick and Lynn if they would accept that amendment, or do you want, we can do a vote on it, or discussion and vote on it?
I think we have to vote on an amendment.
I think, does Alan have something to say? I think he wanted to
Yeah,
say
we can,
something.
we'll vote on the amendment. But let's go to Alan. We're going to vote on the
I have
amendment.
some, well, since the amendment's the only thing on the floor now, I'll limit myself to the amendment. I don't know that I want to take that out. I'd actually like to connect easements to the, thank you, Susan. I'd like to connect the easement to this request. I think I don't see what advantage it is to CA. We've been told that anybody else could have this concept plan. We don't need to be the ones to approve the concept plan, accept it. I'm all in favor of the old concept plan going away, but if Orchard Development, as we've been told, could accept this, let them accept it. And I would want to get something out. If this is going to benefit the Inner Arbor Corporation, then CA should get a benefit out of this, to be fair. And I think the benefit would be the return of the easements. So I would like these to be connected. So I don't know that taking off the paragraph does what I want to do.
Okay, any other discussion on that particular amendment? Jenny,
Yeah,
and then Lynn.
okay, thanks. I think the whole purpose here is to once and for all get rid of the McCall plan. And I want to congratulate Janet as the lead on this, and then Lynn, Sherry, and Dick as the committee that worked on this, along with the Inner Arbor Committee, et cetera. But they did a phenomenal job in coming up with a concept plan. I think, though, that the real issue underlying this at some point is very clear, at least to me. It's get rid of the McCall plan, have something that's much more acceptable to the CA board and the residents. We've had 2 public hearings. The other point is really a very basic point for me. Whose land is this? This is CA's land there. It's the residents' land. Therefore, the residents should always have a say in what facilities go on this land. I'm not talking about programming or anything like that. I'm talking about facilities. So to accomplish that, you have to be able to control the land, or CA does, for the current residents and for our future residents. In my opinion, we do not have that ability now. So what this amendment here is trying to do is to say, we value the trust. We want to work with the trust. They've been doing a phenomenal job on programming. It's time, though, to be looking at who really is responsible for this land now and in the future generations for a long, long time, and to act on that. We cannot afford to have any entity work out any more negotiations with any other entity, either through a lease or easements, unless the CA board is held accountable for that. And that's all this is trying to do. It's really giving us a chance, and the residents of Columbia a chance, to begin to negotiate what will be happening on this land in terms of facilities. The programming that the Inner Arbor Trust does, getting the grants, all of that is a phenomenal asset. So it's really very simple in my mind. And without this protection, I think we're gambling again that what has happened in the past to this land will continue to happen. And I, for one, just, I just can't tolerate that. Thank you.
All right, okay, we're out of time. So is the board willing to give us another 5 minutes here so we can do the voting?
Sure.
Yes.
All right. All right, let's vote on the amendment. So the amendment is to remove the last bullet about working with the trust to re-examine the easement.
Yes, I think that's a different question that deserves more time.
Dick,
Can I say something to that?
Yeah.
and then Lynn.
Okay,
All right.
this,
We have 5 minutes.
this
I thought we were
has
voting.
nothing to do with what changes we'd make in the easement. This simply says that down the road, after we've had time to think about this and discuss it, we will probably be renegotiating and just be clear that we cannot arbitrarily end the easement at all. It has to be an agreement between both parties.
Right.
And so this simply says that we are going to go into this, we are going to negotiate some amendments or perhaps a whole new easement. And I will soon be working on what I think should go into that easement, and I'll send that around to everyone. But I have no problem with leaving this in. It just simply says that this is not, this agreement to accept the concept plan doesn't have any effect on the easement at this point.
All right, Lynn, real quick.
No, I agree with Dick. Again, the concept plan is something that CA should be proud to adopt. It was done in a very public, open way. It involved the major stakeholders. It's been very enthusiastically received by the community. So to have that in place would be a great benefit to the community. I think both the trust and CA are eager to work on the agreement. But it will take us time to do that. I think it's important to pass the concept plan now. We can work on amending the agreement at whatever pace CA wants.
Okay, is there anything else, any other discussion on the amendment? Okay, let's move to a vote on the amendment. And remember, the amendment is to, strike the last bullet. All right, I'm going to call the vote. Shari,
Yes.
Lynn,
I'll say no.
Alan,
No.
Renee,
No.
Jenny,
Sorry, no.
Janet,
Yes.
Dick,
No.
Nancy,
Yes.
Jess,
No.
all right, I'm going to abstain, but the amendment fails. All right, let's move on to the original motion. I'm going to take the roll call vote, and you see the motion up on the screen.
Well, I have a question I'd
Alan,
like to ask.
sorry. Alan? Yeah, you did. You were in the queue. Alan?
I hear it asserted, I mean, there's no love lost for me with the McCall plan. So I'd love to see it go away, but it seems to me that the Inner Arbor Corporation could just say, we no longer do that. I don't get what's the advantage, and I do agree that the concept plan is much better, but I don't see what advantage it is to CA for us to put a stamp of approval on it at this point. We don't get anything out of it. I'd love to hear reasons why we should, not why it's a good plan, because I do agree it's a better plan than the other one, but what advantage is it to CA to approve this?
The advantage is that the trust can apply for funds to enhance an asset that currently belongs to CA and provide a community amenity in town center.
Can't they do that now?
No, because the land is CA, so without the board's approval, they would not move forward with any enhancements in the park.
Have an easement to create, and a concept plan that we were told they can change any time to whatever concept they want. So why not just go ahead and do it?
They need our approval. They need our approval. It's
Actually,
our land.
Andy, can we please take a vote?
Yeah.
Well, wait, Alan had the floor. Alan, is there anything else you want to add?
Well, I guess I have to say, I mean, I have not heard the reason. I've not heard a reason that says they can't go ahead and do what they're going to do right now without our approval. So that's what I'm hearing. Thank you.
Andy, could,
Any? No.
Can I
Sherry-
just,
Sherry.
actually, the easement agreement between CA and Inner Arbor requires that if they are going to deviate in any significant way from the existing concept plan, which is the McCall plan, they need CA's approval to do that. So in fact, if they want to move forward to try and get funding for any portion of this new concept plan, they do need CA's approval.
What defines the trigger for that?
I'm not sure I understand what you mean by what's the trigger. The agreement simply says if they're going to deviate from the original concept plan, they have to come to CA's board for approval.
Oh, more than deviate, they deviate in a certain way.
If
I
the
think completely
plan,
changing the plan
if the
would
plan
fall.
they want to execute is different from the
In any-
McCall plan, they need our approval.
In any way?
Well, I'm not sure that I can answer that, or because it's not really relevant to the situation at hand. The new concept plan totally throws out the McCall plan and starts from scratch. So it is a completely, entirely new and different plan. And certainly under those circumstances, the easement agreement contemplated, and it says that the trust has to come to CA for approval.
Thank you.
All right, any other discussion? If not, I'd like to move and take a vote. Okay, so the vote is the approval of the motion you have on the screen before you.
Does that include, the motion is accepting the motion and accepting the concept plan with the motion attached?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, because that's part of that's exhibit A
Thank you.
on the motion. Lynn,
Yes.
Janet,
Yes.
Renee,
Yes.
Nancy,
Yes.
Alan,
Yes.
Jenny,
Yes.
Shari,
Yes.
Dick,
Yes.
Jess.
Yes.
All right, and I'm going to abstain. So it passes 9-0-1. Thank you. Okay, that is all we have for board votes. We're going to move on to board discussion. First item is the draft budget work session. Is there? No. All right. Is there any questions from the board? Any discussion from the board about the? And remember, please try to remember to use the chat tool. So I know.
Yeah.
I think I saw Dick and then Jenny. Please use the chat tool. Dick.
Yeah.
Dick.
Oh, okay. I have a question. We're putting up $2 million into a rainy day fund. And it strikes me as rather odd to do that when it's still raining. Usually you have, the story is you got 7 lean years, you got 7 fat years. During the fat years, you put the money in. And when things go bad, when it rains, you pull the money out. So I'm seeing $2 million there that is just disappearing when we are closing pools, we're closing the Haven, we're making a lot of sacrifices in our programs, sacrifices that the community is not happy about. Shouldn't we set aside that rainy day fund until the rain stops?
All right, Jenny's next, and then Jess, and then Milton.
Well, I wanted to try to respond to Dick's comment.
All right. Yeah, Milton, if you'd like to respond to Dick.
And Dick, this is solely my perspective, but I think that we have I think as an organization, as a community, and even broader, we have learned a lot from this pandemic. And one of the things we saw with the pandemic with CA, if I just made very quickly, going back to the budget that the board approved in February of 2020, that had income projection, including our borrowing, of $85 million. And that budget was just blown up on us with the start of the pandemic. And we look at ourselves as an $85 million income organization, but we had no cash in the purpose or to cover any emergencies. And we would hit broadside and hit hard, and we're still in it with the pandemic. And what we saw, the changes we made, the personnel layoffs, the furloughs, the things we could not do, we're still going through that. All this is just a starting point for a rainy day fund. If you look at county government, they have a percentage of their projected income in a rainy day fund. And most organizations, even our village association, have a cash reserve. CA does not have that. CA, as we've talked about before, CA is a very property wealthy organization, but we're not cash wealthy organization. And this is what we're trying to correct.
Okay, Jenny.
Yeah, thanks, Sandy. Just a couple of quick things. I feel that in relation to two issues, outdoor pools and the Haven, we need to give the public a lot more information than we've given them. On the Haven presentation, we didn't cover the fact that we have X number of years on the lease at XY cost, and that's quite a liability that, we will be covering. So there are issues, have we looked at partnerships? There's a whole thing there that we haven't given the whole story of what we've been doing to try and work on other options. Because those are the questions at least I get, and I'm sure you're getting. Are we looking at partnerships? Have we looked at ways of getting more members there through working with businesses and getting things like we did with MedStar, where they joined and then their employees can join? How creative are we being? Have we tried all that? What is our liability if we close? Is how we use going to give us anything? All of those issues, we have not really told the public the total picture, I don't think. And we need to give that to the board as well. On outdoor pools, the same situation. The 8 that are being closed, we simply need to do something on each pool that shows what will the cost be for opening, because it is a balanced budget. Where are you going to get the money? But what is the actual cost of opening all the pools that people are saying they want open that CA staff is saying will be closed? So that's about it. And the other thing, last thing is on some of the pools, it looks like there's going to be no public swim, and I really want to look into that more. I don't know if you've looked at that, but to have a pool open and it's really programmed the entire time is not going over in some communities. So it's not like their pool is really open, is the way it's being looked at. Renee's shaking her head, so obviously she spent some time looking at this. Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Okay, Jess. Milton wants to reply. Milton?
Just once again, to two of Jenny's questions, we have in today and also yesterday, we sent out memos to the board. Today is a very extensive memo addressing a lot of the questions that the board posed. And yesterday's memo covered the Haven. And so that information is out there. Please review it, and then we address any other questions you may have.
Okay, Jess.
I have nothing. It's not, don't worry about it. Skip me.
Next up was Janet and then Nancy. Janet?
All I was saying is that we didn't, during the FAT years, we did not contribute to a rainy day fund. And so that's why we need to start doing it now.
Okay. Nancy?
That's true. We didn't contribute to the rainy day fund in the FAT years, and I agree that we should do that. But I think in such a lean year, when we are, as was spoken earlier, said earlier by one of our residents at Speak Out, that we are reducing the number of assets for our residents to use. And we're also putting in more money, or first time putting in money for cash reserve. And I think that we are not balancing that out well at all, frankly. I think the concern is more about the budget than it is about the community and what the community has been paying for. Their price, what they're paying each year is going up because their assessments are going up. And that's why we did not charge or change the rate that we were charging, especially in the middle of a pandemic. So to me, it makes little or no sense to put away $2 million in a year when we are planning to close the Haven, which I seriously hope won't happen. I think it's a major mistake. I'm sorry I'm going on tangents, but there's so many things in my head. The Haven, once it's closed, it will not reopen. And I think that the loss of that space will be something that you will forever kick yourself over once we get through the mess that we're in. And we will get through it. But for us to take $2 million this year, when we're closing Haven, we're closing pools, and these are the things that make Columbia what it is, a special place for people, I think we're making a serious mistake.
Renee.
Yay. Okay. So I just have a couple questions. One is I'd like to see the aquatics overhead budget. Is it in here?
I didn't see it.
Right. I mean, last year, I know that we had like $700,000 in payroll costs for pools that weren't open for 18 months. I'd like to know what we're going to spend this year, and we're only going to open 15 pools. It just seems excessive. I'd like to see what the overhead budget is. I'd also like to know what the Clippers budget is and where it is in this. And then also, is the Haven broken out separately in the budget? Yes. Not under the gyms though.
Page 44.
Page 4. Yeah, I have to apologize. I've not spent as much time studying the budget as I've been a little busy. Okay, thank you. And then, okay, if I can just get those two things. And then, can we go into the swimming budget just a little bit? So I noticed that we're going to close the pools on Memorial Day weekend. Is that true? We're not going to have the extended swimming?
They open on Memorial Day weekend.
I mean, on Labor Day weekend. I'm sorry.
Yes, that's true.
Okay, and then we're going to keep the snack shack or snack bars closed also?
Yes.
Okay, and then I believe I'm a little bit confused about the amount of payroll.
What's your question?
Well, it seems like did I misread the payroll figure for the aquatics department? That it was about 91 full-time people somewhere?
It's 91 FTEs, that's not full-time people.
Full-time equivalents? And what was it in 2019?
It was about 91.
Okay, so we're going to open 2/3 of the pool with limited capacity and have more payroll with no snack shacks, and
we're going to have more payroll because minimum wage.
No, that's full-time equivalents, not payroll dollars.
Some of that relates to increased staffing for Clippers. And some of that relates to increased staffing at the swim center. And other program related as well.
Okay. Well,
and you have to go back. What you're seeing, you're comparing projected versus actual. So what usually happens is we budget a certain amount, and then depending on how many rain days we do or don't have, the number increases or decreases. So we very well could have budgeted more, and we probably did budget more than what actually ended up being the actual because of rain days and things being closed.
Okay, so I guess I appreciate all those answers. I just don't see those answers in the information that's been presented. I think that the swimming pools are the biggest asset in the community. It is the community asset. And as a board member, I think that we have a responsibility to thoroughly understand what's going on with the aquatics department. And I know that that means operations, Milton. I would also like to see exactly, and I haven't seen access to this, and maybe I've missed it again. I've been a little busy. Is there a draft of what the operations, the programming is going to be at each of these pools? So we can see what the public swim hours are going to be? Are we cutting those hours?
So that was given to you in the first round of questions that we responded to.
I'll have to go back and find
the
it.
attachment was, and the response was, the programming is going to be virtually identical to what it was in 2019. And we attached the 2019 pool brochure so everyone could see the programming that was at those pools.
Okay, thank you. And so when is the swim center going to be open and closed? Well, so is the swim center going to operate for 12 months, or is it going to be closed for 2 or 3 weeks, or?
Well, it does close for maintenance. Marty can tell you the specific date.
Yeah, we're planning to run the swim center because we're not having as many outdoor pools open. We're having it open similar to the schedule it's running right now, all the time, all summer. It does have 2 weeks where it's going to close for its annual maintenance, where we drain and power wash and paint the pools, and we're going to do that for each one of the indoor facilities. And we have that time through the summer when the outdoor pools are open, so we have the most swimming available.
Thank you. And so I'm also, do you guys mind me asking these questions? I can get in line, back in line.
Well, just one more question, then we'll go on and you can come back.
Go ahead and I'll come back. I'm good.
Jess, you're up next.
Yep. So I just wanted to comment that the thing that I keep coming back to is we've had lots of wonderful impassioned letters about the importance of the Haven to people and about the importance of having all pools open and all these things that people really want to see. And I absolutely appreciate that. And I would love for us to be able to make that happen. But to me, it comes down to how are we going to pay for it? And when it comes to the Haven, I mean, the truth of the matter is from what I can tell, that facility has been bleeding money for years. And we've been trying to improve it. But at some point, you have to cut your losses. So, you know, when you have, I mean, I think I got some data that indicated there were, I don't know, around 1,000 members of the Haven. And if you look at the cost to operate that, the amount of money we would have to charge to make that facility break even is just, it's not realistic. So I just wanted to kind of put in my 2 cents and sort of say, I completely admire that we want all these things to be open, but this is just not that year. I don't think we can do that. And when it comes to the reserve, I find it a little frustrating that people are now questioning that when we voted on that as a board and decided that that was important because we haven't had one and we don't know what's coming down the pike. We don't know if there's going to be a new variant of this virus that vaccines won't cover. And we lost, what was it, $4 million in a matter of months? So I think it would be foolish not to plan for the future, and I think we just have to accept that we're going to have to make hard decisions that will be unpopular, and we have to, frankly, stand up and have the cojones to do it for the sake of this organization's survival. That's my two pieces.
Shari.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I really hear what you're saying, Jess, and you know, I really, I kind of have the same kinds of concerns. I wish all of our facilities and programs and sports and fitness were able to break even. But that has not been the case for many, many years. So what we're really looking at here is establishing priorities. You know, where is the money going to go to serve the most people in the community? And that's a really tough one because it's hard to contemplate closing anything. So I really get that. I just wonder how many people have during this budget process looked over the aquatics, the swim plan for the aquatics program, or whether people have that plan. Does everybody have that plan? Because if not, I would suggest that you try to get a copy from CA. There was some long-range planning that was done, some strategic planning, and a very, very extensive process, public process that we went through. And I think that's an important document as we look over all of this. Dan, I had a question for you. My understanding, and maybe I'm wrong here, but I thought that all of the 15 pools were going to have a public swim during the major part of the day. I thought that the swim teams were going to be scheduled in the early morning hours, that there would be a later schedule, but that there would be a big chunk of time during the day to accommodate the public, accommodate families. Is that the case?
Yeah, that is the only pool that is programmatically challenged is Hobbits Glen. You know, the other pools, again, are running virtually the same schedule they ran in 2019. So the normal schedule we run. And even Hobbits Glen, that schedule is very similar. It's always been programmed heavily.
Okay, thank you. And my other question is, because of the COVID restrictions that we're going to be under, unless there is some, you know, miracle that happens between now and then, you know, we're still, and I would love to have that be the case, we're going to have some kind of registration process so that we have to restrict the number of people, not only the number of people in the pool, but probably the number of people who are sunning themselves and their kids on the side of the pool. Can you give us some idea how that's going to work?
Well, we're right now, virtually everything we do is registration based. So we've become very, very good at it. You know, so there will be times reserved because I don't think that by the time we get to summer that things are going to be unrestricted. You know, so there will be blocks of time. We do this now. We both, if you look at the swim center, we do lap reservations. So if you want to lap swim, there'll be times to reserve laps. Then we have rec swim where families can reserve for rec swim. Families can also reserve for the laps. So they can do their family swim during the lap time. So there's a lot of flexibility there, but we can control the people. Marty and I were just talking yesterday, today's Thursday, yeah, about how we could set up little picnic areas. You know, whether we have to spray paint the grass with the 6-foot circles so people, but they can still, you know, everybody, you can be here and you can take your mask off if you eat. But really the complete extent of it, we're not going to know until we get closer and know what restrictions we're under. Because I think they are going to change. We're already starting to see some things change in other counties. And even Governor Hogan just changed with indoor dining, or actually not indoor, yeah, indoor dining, the time the bars and restaurants have to close. He extended it. So there will be some evolution. So we're not sure what restrictions we're going to be under. My guess is we'll probably still be at a 50% capacity. And so that will dictate a lot of what we're going to do. But we've become, like I said, very good at the reservation system.
Okay, and the only other thing I'd like to add to that is, again, as so many people have mentioned, is if you can get information out to the community as soon as possible because people are making plans for the summer. Information about camps are coming out. I think it's going to be really, really important because of all these changes to let people know early on. If you miss your reservation time, what's going to happen? If it's raining, what's going to happen? I mean, I understand you. You may not have all those things in place now, but I think using all of our communication systems will be very important. Thank you.
No, I can't sing the praises of Tim and Danica enough and the work they do to get the message out. So I don't think, you have to worry about that. They've been really knocking it out of the park, making sure people are informed.
Okay, Alan's next, followed by Nancy. Alan?
Thanks. Couple of things. I realize we did vote for the reserves before, but I'm also getting persuaded by the rainy day analogy. Don't fix the roof when it's raining. I'm not sure that when it's raining is the time to create the rainy day fund. So I'm willing to reconsider that. And also, it's not lost on me that, and I'm not blaming this on you, Milton, but you said we need to have a rainy day fund and the villages have a rainy day fund. We don't let the villages have the rainy day fund that they want. So if we're going to go there, let's go there and make sure we're not requiring the villages to give us back their money. As long as we can do the pools in a way that both constituencies, the rec swim as well as the kids neighborhood leagues, can be accommodated, I'm okay with it. But I will say, and at the risk of being drummed out of the Hobbits Glen neighborhood here, and I've said this, I want to say this publicly, but I've said it in emails to board members. Hobbits is one of the older pools, and it is one of the more limited pools. It doesn't have the shallow water entrance. It doesn't have any of the amenities, things for kids to play on. And I don't go to Clary's a lot, but it seems to me like Clary's does make more sense as a pool to be open if I was just to take the two pools and compare them. So, and I know there are people who I know well here in Hobbits who go, oh, take away the pool that I love to walk to, and it's right down the street and all that, and I get that. Yeah. But to look at the whole thing, and Dan, it looks like you want to have say in response to what I just said.
Yeah, it's more complicated than that, because it always is. It's never easy. Nothing's ever easy. About half of our visits every year, we see a little over 400,000 people every year at the outdoor pools. And about half of those come from check-in, and half of that comes from programming. And like I said, a lot of programming is happening at Hobbits Glen. And that's usually the way it is. But also in this scenario, it helps free up the regular swim at the other pools where people go to. So really, Hobbits Glen is strategic. So if you took an open Clary's, which gets very little programming normally, and mostly regular swim, the vast majority of its visits come from regular swim, then you're going to have to, as a board, figure out what we're going to do with all that programming that now goes away. Or you have to move the programming to Clary's, and now you've kind of created a situation where you've opened Clary's, but you really haven't opened it because we've had to move all the programming over. Then we have the whole issue of the neighbors around the Clary's Forest Pool that don't want any programming before 10 o'clock in the morning, which then kind of creates a whole nother set of issues. So it's not as simple as exchange this pool for that pool.
I hear you, Dan.
Complicated.
The Hickory Ridge Village apparently says it's not a big deal, that there's not a lot of complaints, so let's go ahead and have the pool open. In terms of programming, Clary's to have programming earlier, and then at least in the times that it was open for rec swim, there'd be more things for people to do. The other question I would have is, what would it cost to add Clary's to the list?
Clary is actually the most expensive pool to open, and these are rough estimates because we normally don't budget on individual pools. We know the payroll because we know what the staffing is going to be, but some of the other costs. So this is a very, very educated guess, and this was included in the document you received today. Clary's would be about $84,000 to open for the summer.
A minor amount compared to this 2 million we're going to waste. Thank you.
Okay, Nancy. Followed by Janet. Nancy? Nancy, okay.
Yeah, Dan, I have one question for you. Will there be water aerobics, and where will it be if it does exist? And how will it exist?
In the same places they were before. That's what I've been saying. With the main schedules are all going to be the same.
Okay, but there's going to be a limited number of people that'll be in the classes?
Yeah, depending on whatever restrictions we're under at the time. You know, right now, water aerobics indoors, we're operating at 25 people per class.
Right.
You know, and so that's our least restrictive program. So, you know, I can't tell you what the restrictions are going to be come summertime, but we're going to maximize whatever we're allowed to do safely.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
And if I can talk for a second too on that, part of the reason Hobbits was selected was because of the aqua fitness, because it's shallow all the way across with the seniors. It lets you and everybody that goes to that class, it lets them spread out around that entire pool. If you use one of the other pools like Clary's, it only has the smaller section of the pool. And with the senior swim and stuff, you want people to be able to spread out over that whole pool and have access to that.
Right.
With the
Good
COVID
point.
stuff.
Thank you, Marty. And I just wanted to make a comment about the 2 million cash reserve. I know we're bashing you over the head, but we made the decision at a time when we weren't looking at all the things we're looking at now as closely. And we have learned, if we've learned nothing else, that things change and we sometimes need to change direction. So I would hope that we can all seriously consider maybe this is not the right year for us to put away $2 million when we're cutting back on what our community, which is what we exist for, is paying for less, paying more, but getting less. We need to consider that.
Okay, Janet?
Yeah, so I just wanted to mention the $433,000 loss that Haven will have if we operate it. And against 1,000 members, you know, I think 1,000 members is a very small number for justifying that expense. Now, on the flip side of that, that would come to about an increase of $36 a month per member. So I think it's worthwhile to poll the Haven members if they're willing to spend the additional money. Dan and Susan, would it make sense if we can generate $433,000? Essentially, we break even versus it's sitting there. Is that right?
We're not breaking even on anything. I mean, everything we do costs money.
Yeah, but what I'm saying, Nancy, is that spending $433,000 for 1,000 members is excessive.
So we wouldn't break even. What that would do would eliminate what we're saving in the budget. Yeah, so and the problem is, well, I guess if you raise everybody's rates $36 or then you would get it immediately. It would still be losing $2.5 million.
Right, but either way, it's going to lose that, right? You know, so what I'm saying is having it sit empty versus staffing it. If the current members are willing to make up that difference, would it be worth maintaining it?
I mean, I think it's worth considering, but that's a pretty big increase, and it doesn't then give us the opportunity to work to do anything else with that space or to get out of it. I mean, it's a short-term situation, I think, but Dan would know better than I.
I think it is short-term and half the space is empty.
I'm
So
still
something could be
asking
done with that.
questions.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Thank you.
So, I think, look, I've been the biggest proponent of Haven. I've been drugged before this board so many times to defend Haven since I've gotten here. So it's very awkward.
I'm on your side.
And
I feel dirty having these conversations because I believe in Haven and I think it's a wonderful facility. And I think I told Nancy last time, I don't disagree, but I think the right thing to do. The challenge, it's, and Shari said this about the golf, about Fairway Hills last time. So we keep Haven open. So then I do have 4,000 square feet that's sitting empty.
Wow.
Either we sublease it and make no money on it because the rent is not cheap. So we're not going to make money on the space if we sublease it. We're just going to break even. So that doesn't really help us other than, it saves us a little money, but it doesn't help us with driving our business. So then if we try to, like we were going to build a spa, but that's $1 million to build out, to refurbish the spa and get Haven where you need to be. So there does need to be investment in the property to get it to where we need it to be. So there are compounding challenges. I don't want to have this conversation. I hate having this conversation.
I understand. And I was just looking for an option. If the Haven is as valuable as the people that have spoken up on its behalf, then are they willing to pay more for it? Or if not, then I think that's the decision that we as a board have to make, how much we're willing to invest for 1,000 members. So, I don't think we have to elaborate on it further. I'm just trying to come up with another alternative. My other question though was, what happens if you can't staff even the pools that you have slotted? Are you concerned at all that that might be a reality?
It's not always, but it is a little bit of a concern. It's getting better by the day, but it's going to be a concern. Marty and I, again, we were meeting yesterday. He was telling me he thinks we're going to be hiring right up until the day we open.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be challenging to get through it. And if we end up short, depending on how short we are, we'll operate like we do during the extended seasons. We don't have staff. That's another major problem with the extended season. And Marty has to lifeguard. All the managers who are usually supporting all the staff will be out there in the chairs lifeguarding.
Every board member can take their turn, Dan.
What's that?
I said every board member can take their turn.
Marty will set up a special class to teach everybody.
I will get everybody certified.
All we need is a certified, right? Thank you, Dan. And so I just wanted to make one more comment about the rainy day fund, and then I won't bring it up again, but I will just say this. The thinking behind, like, now's not the time, is exactly the thinking that has gotten us to where we are. For years now, no one is willing to put away the money. No one is willing to make difficult decisions. And I, as much as all of you, want to support our community and to have robust assets. But the only way we can do that is by ensuring that we are financially sound. And I think, the fact that we didn't have a rainy day fund is the bigger problem. The fact that folks don't want to fund it now is also a problem, because what's going to happen is things get better again, and then all of a sudden, oh well, this person asked for $200,000, and this one asked for $300,000, and this one asked for $500,000, and we just start doling out all the extra money that we think we have. And so, that's why we are where we are right now. So please let us think long and hard about how we need to best support our community. And I think that is by ensuring that we are viable well into the future.
Okay, Jenny, Lynn, Susan, and Milton. Jenny?
Yeah, thank you. as far as the Haven, I think what, like Sherry was saying before, it's a matter of communicating to our residents and the public what we've been doing in an open way. And we're getting better at that. But with the Haven, for example, in terms of maybe it's in that memo you just sent, but have we even talked to the landlord, Howard Hughes, and asked for some relief on the rent? I mean, from what I heard, they're giving relief to restaurants down there. So how about, us? I mean, what I'm saying is the public just wants to know that we have done everything possible to look at this possibilities of keeping it open. And I know it's a difficult thing, but we got to communicate that a lot more. The second thing is the outdoor pools. Now, I know you answered Sherry and I think Renee, saying that if we looked at the schedule, well, the schedule that you sent, and I'm looking at, is 2019, when all the pools were open. So if I were to send this on to residents to say, take a look at this, what do you think? It's listing all of the pools. And the ones for Stevens Forest from May 5th through the 25th, there's no public swim. I think you said there's public swim in all the pools.
Well, that's before Memorial Day, Jenny.
Well,
That's
I know,
why. That's
I
the
know.
extended season we're not having.
So there is no public swim, and that's the reason, is because you're not going to open it to the public until Memorial Day. You open it up for all these other things, including adult swim, adult laps.
No.
Is that the public adult laps?
Early this year.
Yeah.
What?
We wouldn't have that this year.
That's the early swim, and the late swim is not going to be open.
The first
what
time
I'm
the
trying
pool's
to
open
say-
is Memorial Day, which is around May 25th.
All right, I think what you need to do, very simply, the schedule you sent me that said it would explain everything, you need to take a look at that 2019 and see if in fact it's the best schedule to have sent. Because if I send it on and it's inaccurate, I don't think that's going to go over very big, okay?
Well, it's not going to be exact. We haven't done the schedules yet because we don't know which pools are going to be open. What we're telling you is look at the pools that we're recommending to be open, and the schedule that you see there is going to be very similar. So you can have an idea of what it's going to be looking like.
Right, because we also don't know what school's doing yet. So we're waiting to find out what school sports and stuff are doing for things like the swim league and stuff. So I can't give you a perfect schedule of this is what the pools are going to look like yet, because there's 5 different versions I'm working on right now, depending on what Howard County Schools does.
Okay, I think then what you need to send is not something like this, but of some paragraph that says what you just said, Marty, so that in terms of communicating with residents that want to know what the programming will be, we've got something in writing we can share with them. Because if I just send this out,
But Jenny, we already just told you we can't tell you specifically, you or anyone else, what the programming is going to be.
that is exactly my point. That's what your paragraph should say. It should explain, this is what you just said. This is what we're saying. Look at what it was. However, everything that Marty said, you simply put as an introduction to this chart. That's all. If you want this going out so that they get an idea, you need to put the conditions attached to this that you explain. It's a matter of communicating with people, because otherwise the rumors are going around, and we just want to make sure they have all the information they need. It's a simple request. Okay, thanks, guys.
Lynn, and then Susan and Milton.
Okay, one more thing about outdoor pools. And again, this comes from Town Center, and I know we have talked to Wild Lake about it also, Nancy. And there's a meeting Monday night. But Town Center and Wild Lake together, we are 2 villages. The only pool that's scheduled to be open is Faulkner Ridge, which is the farthest away pool from the most people. If you are a kid with a bike in Town Center, you can cross the street in one location, and that would take you very easily either to the Running Brook pool or to the Bryant Woods pool. If you're a parent with a baby and you're pushing a stroller, those 2 pools are walkable, both for Town Center and for Wild Lake. Faulkner Ridge is the farthest away. It is the least attractive. It is the closest pool to the other 3 pools in Harper's Choice that are open. You know, so you have 3 pools in Harper's Choice, then you open Faulkner Ridge for 2 villages, and it's located right next to, it's closest to the Longfellow pool, you know. Certainly, I think a town center needs to be considered. We don't have a pool of our own, but you know, it's very, very difficult. I am thinking of, you know, more of the younger families that use it. It's very difficult to, you know, to walk to Faulkner Ridge. And when you get there, it's just not a pretty pool. Of the 3 pools in Wild Lake, it is the least attractive. You've had upgrades to Running Brook. Bryant Woods has always been, you know, lush, and it has the hot tub, and it, you know, they are just better pools for community use. Now, I realize you've concentrated on how you can accommodate the swim teams as well as, you know, other uses, but I just really think you forgot about town center in this. We feel very left out.
Okay, Susan.
Andy.
Oh, sorry, Dan.
I mean, Marty and I have talked a lot about this. There are some trade-offs, but we could consider, we could swap Faulkner Ridge and Running Brook. Running Brook would cost a little more to operate, so we'd have
nicer pool
to work with that. And there's some downsides to, you know, at Faulkner Ridge, we can take the fence line down and create a more expansive area. So there are some benefits and some trade-offs that would occur. But that is, of all the scenarios we're talking about, that's one of the ones that would have the least implications in the way things are laid out now.
Yeah. Again, it's just about the community having access to it, and it just looks, the optics of it to me are not good. You have the rich pool in Hobbit's Glen that's open for the swimmers, and then you have one of the really less attractive pools in Wild Lake that is available for 2 villages, and it's really not very accessible by most parts of either one.
Okay, Susan.
So just on the cash reserve or the rainy day fund, so that we have the cash now because of the mainly because of the loan proceeds. So we can set aside those funds at this point, and and that's a cash transaction. So if we don't do that, and we still have to deal with the loss that would be generated by keeping Haven open or opening more pools. So not doing the cash reserve does not free up $2 million of revenue. It's not a revenue situation. It's just setting aside the cash on the balance sheet that we now have, and we might not have in the going forward, to start a rainy day fund. And we did have the cash reserves. I knew they were there in the general liability trust, but we used $3 million of that, and we need to put that back. So it just doesn't seem prudent to me, when it's been clearly demonstrated that CA needs the cash to not set aside the funds while we have them. And I don't know if, Lynn, if you wanted to add anything to that, because you do hear more in the details, but that's my perspective.
No, I think that's the whole workings of a rainy day fund is you put the money into it when you have it so that it's there when you face the unexpected and when you need it. So that's it.
Milton.
And once again, and I'll be brief, I have a couple points and I'll cover it quickly. But also for me, for the cash reserves, I mentioned last time or in a previous conversation that this is my 7th budget. And with the exception of the draft for FY22, all the other budgets, we've seen an increase in our income anywhere between 3 and 3.5% each fiscal year. And that increase was reflected even before I got here. But yet we never set up a cash reserve because there was always, let's spend the money, let's spend the money. And I frankly, and with all due respect, I disagree with Dick and Alan when you're saying you don't fix your roof when it starts raining. No, you should fix it before then, because when it starts raining, you just compounded your problems. And that's what happened to us in March of 2020. We didn't have any money and we compounded our problems. And the other point, I want to highlight something Nancy says. Nancy, I don't think the board, and this is just my opinion, should be out in the community apologizing for us dealing with a pandemic that has affected everyone's lives, every organization, every employer. You make a point, very valid point, when you said that our programs, especially in sport and fitness, with the exception of the 3 fitness clubs, they don't pay for themselves. But it hasn't been a major problem for us until now, because we had those other funds in what I like to call our income bucket. Now we don't have those dollars in that income bucket, and we're trying to continue providing quality programs to the community with less revenue. But I believe we're doing an excellent job, and we should not be apologizing for not being able to do something that externally was brought upon us. This is not an intentional effort of the board saying, I'm going to cut back on services that the community is used to. We're responding to external factors that has hit the organization, our revenue stream, and just turn things upside down. So you shouldn't be apologizing. You're saying this is what we're doing and we're going to rebound, but it's just going to take time.
Okay, Dick and Alan, then we have to wrap it up because we're just about out of time. Dick, something you want to say?
Yes, I just reminiscing to 3 years ago when the villages had their reserve funds and we kept getting this money is not doing any good, sitting in the bank. It's just sitting there. We need to take it back. And all of a sudden we seem to have changed our tune about reserve funds. The second thing is, when you've got a famine, you don't start putting food in a bank for the next famine. You feed the people while the famine is still in effect. Now, we did instruct the staff to put $2 million into a reserve fund, and I think that was a wise thing to do. And we did it when we were under no pressure, so this idea that we won't do it again is false, because we know now the need to put money in a reserve fund. It's just a question of when do we start putting that money into that reserve fund. And that's all I'm going to say. I just really think we have access to funds to provide the services that people expect from us. And it just doesn't seem like the right time to be taking money out of circulation when we need to spend it. And I just, one more thing, I'll do this very quickly. Regarding the Haven, I hate supporting the Haven. I think it's a lot of hooey, but it's a service that, 1,000 people use, and we're getting letters on it. I'm thinking that maybe we just need to postpone the closing, give it a year, because we're going to be taking that expense, a big hunk of that expense this year, regardless. And let's see what we can do with it. We have not marketed that at all. There are over 1,000 apartments that have gone in over the past couple of years. We haven't sent any direct mail out. We haven't made any offers. I think, let's give it a chance. Let's give it one more chance. And if it doesn't, and we don't get any results, shut it down. But it's not necessary to shut it down this particular year.
Okay, Alan,
Yeah. I'm sort of with Dick around my feelings about the Haven, but I like the idea of seeing if the people who want to go there are willing to pay for it. Because I think that's the question we haven't really addressed, is the bottom line question of what facilities are we willing to have the entire community pay for, and what facilities and programs are we not? And I think sort of let that one slide over the years. We sort of talk about the pools, and I would agree with that the pools are one that the whole community benefits from and should pay for, but we haven't really gotten clear about that, and I think we should. In the rainy day fund, I think Dick said it really, really well. It's not a question of whether we should have one or not. The question of when do you put money in, and you don't put money, like our federal government is, we could say, oh, we're going to miss a financial recession. We shouldn't be spending any more money. We got people who are in crisis. They need the money. So we spend more and we go into deficit. I'm not saying we should go into deficit, but there are people who are in need, and if we have the funds now, let's spend the funds. And then, as somebody said, whoever brought this up, in the 7 years, you got the money, then yes, we should be putting the money aside and free up the villages to do the same thing. And I have to say, Susan, I know you tried to explain it, or you did explain it. It was lost on me, the distinction you were trying to make in terms of what makes this $2 million different. Maybe this is a Sater question. How is this $2 million different from the $2 million?
Susan, I think the distinction you're trying to make, and I think that the board is, the rainy day fund is not coming out of the operating budget. Okay, and that's what we've been talking about tonight, is the operating budget. That $2 million is not coming out of the operating budget. So whether you put the $2 million in the rainy day fund or not, it does not go into the operating budget. And I think that's the point Susan was making, and perhaps the board isn't understanding. In essence, that $2 million is coming out of capital. You could spend that $2 million on capital projects, but you don't spend it on the operating. So whether we fund the rainy day fund or not is not really going to impact, it's not going to improve your bottom line on the operating budget. Is that what you're trying to get across, Susan?
It was.
Okay. So I think it's important for the board to understand that you have to separate it. The rainy day fund is not part of the operating budget. Okay.
Well, could I ask just a question on that? That's going in. I get that, although I don't fully get it, but I think I get it. How about on the coming out? What if it starts to rain and we need to use that money? Can we only use it for capital projects?
No, you could use it for operating expenses, but you would have to make sure that it didn't push us into a deficit. So we'd have to look at what income would be there to offset that. So it depends. It depends on the circumstances.
And also, isn't staff going to give us the policy that will basically tell us how the rainy day funds are going to coming up in March or April?
So we're working on the research, looking at what other organizations, nonprofits, and governments do, how they handle their cash reserves, how they fund them, and what the guidelines are for use. And so, just got to get that all pulled together so you have something to look at and some options to consider. So from a policy standpoint.
So Alan, save your question, because it's a good question. But when we get to the policy, then that's a great time to ask that question and how we're going to use the funds. All right, we got 5 minutes, a little bit less than 5 minutes. Renee, last, real quick.
So I understand that everyone or several people like the Haven, and if we could charge more, I mean, we can certainly do a market survey and see if people are willing to pay another $35, $40 a month. And if they are, that would be a different decision. But if they're not, and you keep it open, then my question becomes, what 3 outdoor pools are you going to close to keep the Haven open? or 4. It could be 4 outdoor pools.
Okay.
I mean, I'm not willing to give up an outdoor pool to keep the Haven open.
All right. I want to thank the board for the discussion. We spent about an hour on it. Let's move on. The next item is the 2021 budget update. Milton, anything you want to add? Or go right to Susan?
So what you have in the package is the operating results for the organization CA-wide and the 3 major departments, and this is through December. It's just, I would just open it up for questions. I reminded everybody that the October report, the 6-month report, was shared with the board and the community, and is posted on the website in mid-December. The 3rd quarter report, so will be, that includes the through January, will be presented in March and issued to the community in March, and that's the full report with all the comparative information. So, any questions about the December numbers, or?
If I may add something.
Sure.
Everyone, I just want to, a good example of the impact on this organization, especially on our non-annual charge income. Just look at the community services. After 8 months, it's at $129,000. Normally, if we go back to FY 2019, community services is generally a $4+ million income department.
Okay, so any questions? Nope, don't see anything. All right, thank you very much. I'm going to move on to the community outreach discussion. Okay, and what I want to ask first is Tim was going to give us a very quick synopsis from the virtual town hall event. Tim, are you there?
I sure am. Hi, Andy.
Sure.
Hi, everyone.
Thanks, Tim.
So, with respect to the virtual town hall event we held last week, we were generally pleased with the event. I felt that it really was the best mechanism that we had available to address the range and the scope of the questions that were raised. Milton, Susan, Dennis, Dan, Michelle, and Kristen provided some pretty complex content, but in a very efficient and accessible way. And of course, we received some very nice positive feedback on Danica's hosting of the event. And I think all those contributors should be thanked for their extensive preparation and the presentations that they made. We largely met what we expected with respect to attendance. And then, of course, the recorded content is available to anyone interested through our channels, and I've seen some of the villages doing likewise. The landing page that we had set up on the website, on our CA website, now includes the recording as well as a pretty detailed timestamp guide to the content, so people can sort of get quick and easy access by topic. In terms of viewership, the numbers there was about 100 unique viewers on the YouTube live stream, about a high point of 39 at any one time. So there were some people coming and going. Average watch time for that was about 26 minutes. On Zoom, as an alternative channel, we saw up to 103 people attending the event. We ended at 92. A few people dropped off at the end. We do recognize that some of those attendees were yourselves, were board members, and I think a few staff. Happy to answer any questions about that.
So any questions for Tim? Shari.
Yeah, unfortunately, I wasn't able to see the presentation because my cable had been cut to my house. So I just wanted to say I really appreciate the help from CA staff to be able to get the phone numbers to call in, and I listened to the entire thing by phone. And I also want to compliment Danica. I think she did a wonderful job in terms of coordinating it, in tone, in terms of approachability. It was really wonderful to see that from CA. The only thing is the phone connection itself, just to give you a little bit of feedback, was very difficult at points. So I don't know what we can do to improve that. I don't know how many people were trying to get through by phone. There's still a couple of bugs there. I do appreciate what you have put up on the website. I think that's going to be very helpful. The other bit of feedback that I got from my village board is that there are a lot of younger people in the community who are very used to now using the internet, social media, whatever. Apparently our registration was closed down more than 24 hours ahead of the event. And many of the people who use social media really don't go on to register for anything more than a day before.
Okay.
So there's a little bit of disconnect there. I'm just passing this along. We may want to think about that for our next event, with leaving that registration open a little bit longer. But thank you very much for your efforts. I think it was really wonderful to see the team pull together that way.
Thanks, Sherry, and I do recognise Danica's skill. Otherwise, I'm glad we have her. Otherwise, you would have all had to put up with me hosting the event, and so I think we're in a much better position because of that. So, thank you. Those technical aspects, I think that we applied the Zoom technology because of some limitations on a webinar setup for Google Meet. So, a couple of teething problems. Would probably expected, and so I appreciate the detailed feedback on those things that were experienced. Thank you.
Dick, you had some?
Okay. Yeah, my microphone keeps disappearing. Yeah, that was a really nice job. A lot of work went into it, and I applaud the entire staff for putting the pieces together. Danica, you are amazing as a presenter. You really brought a lot of personality to it and kept it lively. I have just a couple of suggestions. First of all, when it came time to watch the show, about 5 minutes before I went on the CA website to find the invitation, and let's make sure that we don't make that mistake in the future. That's where people go to find this kind of information. One thing I think that might have helped a bit, the complaints that I received were that this seemed like just a CA dog and pony show, that we weren't really talking to the community. And so possibly a thing we should do is have our people say, we got questions from so-and-so, and this was the questions asked, here's an answer. Make sure that people know that we're not just we're not just spouting off, but that we really are answering their questions. And I know we have, 60, 70 questions. So maybe we don't have to announce all of them, but I think if we said this is not just us showing off, this is us answering questions, it would help the authenticity of the show. But again, great job. Looking forward to doing the next one.
Thanks, Dick. And certainly 59, 60 questions, some of those with 17 parts to them and various points spread throughout. I think your point is well taken, that the reflection of here is the nature of the questions, maybe in a little more detail, would have given those that were tuning in to hear that answer to their question just some anchor point to, all right, they've heard this particular question. So in the interest of efficiency, I think we did that crunch it down into the broad topics and then as much detail as we can there. But I appreciate the feedback too.
I understand what you did, and showing the cloud, I think, kind of helped, but I don't think a lot of people understood the cloud. And you might even consider filming some people asking questions. You're the experts on how to do this, so see if there are other ways that you can personalize it a little more and make it more of a back and forth.
Danica, did you want to say something?
Sure. Just to that point, I wanted to give the staff a lot of credit. I actually noted quite a few times when they were referring to maybe not the name. I wasn't sure if it was appropriate to name people for their question, but they referred to specific questions maybe not read them verbatim, but certainly said someone asked specifically about, fill in the blank. Somebody, a few of you asked about fill in the blank as a topic. So I actually want to commend the staff for their efforts in trying to make it a little bit more personal.
Okay. As part of the, communication strategy that Tim presented last time, it does talk about community engagement, community outreach. So is there anything that people want to say? Janet?
I was just agreeing with Dick. I like the idea of having people ask the questions if they're willing, just because I think, one, it sort of draws the community in, and two, it helps the people asking the questions feel like they've contributed.
Yeah, understood. Thank you.
All right. Anything else? Any further discussion? All right. Next topic is applicable state legislation. Are there any questions? We have the memo from Sherry. Any questions? Dick, please remember to use the chat tool.
Yes, I was trying to move this thing right along. Just one thing.
I only see about 20, 25 people, so.
Yeah. Yeah, the question of the Arts Council has been brought up, and I just hope that we do take a look at that and see if it's something we want to get behind.
I've asked Nina to send me the information on the bill that she mentioned, and I'll be taking a look at it.
Okay, great.
Any other questions? Nope. Okay. Next is the Howard County General Plan update. Milton, you want to say anything? Turn it over to Kristen.
Yes, Kristen was she was trying to do 2 assignments tonight, but I
I'm
think
here.
out there.
I'm here.
Yeah, Kristen.
Hi, everybody. Yeah, as Milton said, I was in the Howard County Planning Advisory Group meeting from 6 to 8, and I was here from 7 until now. So there was about an hour of overlap where I was kind of in the Howard County meeting, but watching you guys out of the corner of my eye to make sure I knew where you were in the agenda. I knew you wouldn't get to me too early though. So in a memo that I provided to you in your packages, I had kind of gone over the content of a meeting that we had in early January, which was basically the group reviewing the assessments that Howard County has posted on their website. There's about 6 or 8 of them. And if you haven't had a chance to check them out, I encourage you to do so. You might not want to read every last one of them word for word, but at least skim through them and see what their content includes. Tonight's meeting, we moved on to planning themes. You may be familiar with general plans typically organize their content in categories such as transportation, land use, open space, and so forth. This consultant that Howard County is using has decided that that really silos topics too much, and it doesn't address the overlap that different categories inevitably have. So they've come up with a collection of 5 themes, and I'm going to read them to you now. They are life outdoors, quality by design, community in motion, supporting economic prosperity, and dynamic neighborhoods. The Howard County by Design website, hocobydesign.com, has these listed if you want to delve into them a little bit more. And I am told that there is also some sort of survey about the about these themes and whether they capture what we want them to. I have not gone to that website yet, because as I just explained, I have been on Zoom for the past several hours. But that's just a little bit of information that I wanted to share with you about how the general plan is evolving, and that it's going to be, looks like it's going to present to you, the public, in a way that's a little bit more innovative than the typical topic by topic, chapter by chapter, you know, the look that we may be used to. It's going to be a little bit different.
Okay, Shari and then Alan. Shari, you had a question? A comment?
Yeah, Kristen, I'm so glad that you were able to be there for the whole thing. I was also stacked up with both meetings, and I had to get out at 7. So I'm glad that you were there for the whole thing. We'll have to share notes because I've only got half. But I just wanted to add that the survey, I think, will be open, and correct me if I'm wrong, from tomorrow, well, actually from today through February 8th. So it would be really.
That sounds right. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's really important. You know, this is something we can push out to our village boards, try to get more people in the villages involved in doing that survey. A lot of folks who can't get away, who are young parents, can certainly do that online in between feeding the babies. And so that might be something that we can really contribute here. The other thing that came up, and there may have been more discussion about this, was the issue of equity. And the consultants, I think, have become very aware that there are lots of people in our community, particularly in Columbia, who are really concerned about how the issue of equity is going to play out among all of these themes. And because this is an innovative way of looking at it, it really requires some creative attention, and also expanding the outreach to a greater base of people. So this theme is going to sound very, very familiar to us, and it's something that the county is taking into account, and they are going to be incorporating that and looking at their data to look at equity in terms of economics, in terms of demographics, all of these issues. So it's a real challenge, but I think there's a lot of energy in the PAC and among the people who are participating at the county level. So I'm feeling very enthusiastic about it. Thank you.
Alan, you had a question?
I'm all in favor of innovation, and sometimes what looks like innovation is obfuscation. So could you translate those fancy name categories that you ran through into English?
Sure, I can. So I'll read a little bit of a summary now, but I do encourage you to go onto the website to get even more in-depth information. Life Outdoors is focused on protecting and preserving our natural resources. Quality by Design is respecting and prioritizing community character. County in Motion is fostering modern mobility choices. Supporting economic prosperity is creating opportunities for businesses to innovate and thrive. And Dynamic Neighborhoods is maintaining and supporting vibrant living. Now, in addition to each of those little, 6-word summaries that I just gave you, I have entire bulleted lists of what kind of topics will be in each of those categories. But for the sake of time, I would rather either share this with you on email or direct you to the website because it's pretty extensive.
I'm fine with that. It's just, so those subtitles were all so much clearer than the titles. So thank you.
Yeah, Kristen, just if you could, just send the board the website link, just as a reminder, make it easier so they can go get it.
I will. And in fact, on a related note, I have received the final Newtown Planning and Visioning report, and I am going to send that out to you tomorrow. It's their final report. I think you'll find it a valuable resource to help guide us through the GPU process. So you're going to have a chance to look at that in, the coming weeks. You'll get it tomorrow. You'll have several weeks to look at it, and I think it's on the an agenda for discussion in early March. So when I send that out to you tomorrow, in that same email, I will include information on the GPU website link where you can get a lot of details about what I've explained to you tonight.
Thanks. Any other questions? Nope, I don't see any. All right, thank you very much, Kristen.
All right, have a good night.
You too. We're on to chairman's remarks. I submitted a written report. Any questions? Nope. All right, Monica, is there anything you want to say about the presidential search? Just remind the board, I did send out that list of dates.
Yes. So the presidential search is still underway. The firm that we have used, Baker Tilly, has gone through the candidates, and they are in the process of pulling together the finalists, about 10 to 15 finalists to present to the board. There will be a closed session where the board will receive those 10 to 15 finalists, and they will have an opportunity to look at those finalists and decide which 4 to 5 they would recommend to be interviewed ultimately by the senior staff and some additional stakeholders. So at this point, we are moving along nicely, and we expect that we would have someone signed, sealed, and delivered by March 31st. That is the goal.
Thanks, Monica. Ginny?
Yeah, Monica, the purpose of that closed meeting also is to provide the board with a format which would include the criteria for evaluating the 10 to 15 so that we do this in a uniform way.
Absolutely. Baker Tilly will provide a very extensive document, as well as instructions and conversation with you to make sure that everyone's doing things consistently.
Yeah, and that meeting is important in that we all hear that from Baker Tilly, as Sharon at Baker Tilly, and then we get a chance to ask questions. So we really make sure we really understand what's expected of us. So, okay, thank you.
Right.
Yep, no problem.
Dick?
Yeah, Monica, I'm kind of lost in this process here. It was long and involved. Is it my understanding that the candidates that they had selected at this point were going to be interviewed and videoed, or is it just the next 15 or so? Where are we in that process?
So the ones that you will receive will have already been videoed.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, and you will get an opportunity to see that information.
Good, and I guess we won't have any need to see the other interviews that got rejected.
That's correct.
Okay, so we'll just see the winners.
Right, the 15 or so winners, yes.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Monica. I appreciate the update.
No problem.
Okay, next, President's report. Milton submitted his report in writing. Is there any questions for Milton?
Well, I have one outstanding.
Sure.
I have one outstanding response to an email Janet had sent to me earlier. And I think, Janet, you received the response about us moving to the cloud.
Yes, I did. Thank you.
And then also you received a response from Dennis about, I was also surprised by the number of HVCA units at Haven. I'm not at the Supreme Club. But the other one is that generally we've started the process to to replace Layla because her last day with CA as our archivist is tomorrow. And generally, our practice through HR, we look at the existing job position description. We make any changes to it. Right now, we have put out an ad on the street with a timeline of February 7th to receive resumes. And we're looking at filling the position part-time because that's the status that Layla was in presently. And we're going to go from there. Right now, the timeline is optimistic to have someone, a new person by the end of February.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Milton. Any other questions for Milton? No, don't see any. Okay, on to Inner Harbor Trust. Their report was submitted also in writing. Any questions for Lynn? Lynn, anything you want to add or?
I think we've talked about the trust enough for a while. Thank you all.
Okay, don't see any questions. Tracking forms, any questions on the tracking forms? No, don't see any. Okay, proposed new topics, anything? No, don't see anything. All right, we're on to talking points. Bonnie, do you think?
Andy?
Yes, Dick.
Yeah, I'd like to put on the agenda or on the next steps or whatever, something about the Inner Harbor easement and, what we would expect.
Okay.
So I don't know if that's something we want to do right away, but I think we need to do that at some point.
Well, we'll make sure it's on the list.
Yeah,
So,
just on the list.
Yeah, so it's on the list.
Good.
Anything else? Okay, talking points. Bonnie, are you there?
And Andy, if she's not, I'll follow up with Janet and Bonnie to get some talking points.
Sure. Yeah, we'll send out the talking points. All right. That completes our agenda. I want to thank you all for coming and actually for finishing up early. So thank you very much and enjoy the rest of the weekend. And we'll see you at our next meeting. Good evening.
Good night, everybody.